The candle flickered, casting long, quivering shadows across the walls. In the stillness of the room, there was a subtle hum of anticipation, as if the darkness itself was leaning in to listen. "Power," the narrator whispered, "is not loud. It creeps, it whispers, it seduces. Even the meekest hearts carry a spark of desire, a hidden yearning to shape the world, to command the lives of others without being noticed." It was a dangerous knowledge, one rarely spoken aloud, and those who heard it felt the first thrill of something forbidden. From the corner of the dim room, a figure shifted. Hands clasped tightly, knuckles whitening, eyes darting to every shadow. This student, or perhaps a spy of the psyche, sensed the subtle lesson. Power is as much about perception as it is about action. One does not merely take, one manipulates, bends, and whispers until obedience arrives not through force, but through the silent agreement of fear, respect, and desire. The narrator's voice, low and deliberate, continued. Humans are fragile creatures. They betray themselves more often than others betray them. Every thought of control, every longing for admiration, is a seed that can grow into domination. And yet, it is not enough to understand the desire for power. One must feel it coursing through the veins of their enemies and allies alike, recognize its weight in the trembling hands of the innocent, and its pull in the hearts of those who would betray without a second thought. Outside, the streets were silent. A distant footstep echoed like a drumbeat, a reminder that the world itself was always listening, always waiting. Shadows of imagined enemies crept along walls, and the room seemed smaller, more suffocating. The student shivered, sensing the peril hidden in knowing too much. What had seemed an abstract notion, the allure of command, was now tangible, almost alive, whispering its own dark seductions. A lesson hung in the air, heavier than the smoke curling from the candle. Those who seek power must first accept the loneliness it demands. Compassion, kindness, even loyalty, they are obstacles, masks that must be discarded when the time comes. The first step is recognition, that every friend could be a rival, every smile a weapon, and every secret a chain. As the candle guttered, the narrator paused, letting the silence speak. Then, in the faintest of whispers, the question lingered. What would you do if you knew the thoughts of those around you, their fears, their ambitions, their betrayals? And in that question lay the seed for the next revelation. For understanding the nature of power is one thing, but learning to wield it, knowing when and whom to betray, requires a courage darker than most dare to summon. The shadows in the corners seemed to lean closer, waiting for the next lesson, the next secret to unfold, as the whisper of power promised something more, something far more dangerous. The whisper of power still lingered in the corners of the mind when the lesson shifted, subtly, inexorably, into betrayal. The narrator's eyes glinted from beneath the shadows, a predator observing a prey that didn't yet know it had been caught. Betrayal, he said, is not an accident. It is the hidden machinery of human ambition, a silent agreement that the weak will falter and the cunning will rise. Loyalty is a fragile veneer, one that shatters when advantage whispers its seductive promise. He introduced a figure in the shadows, a man named Corvinus, whose smile had once been trusted by many. He had spoken of friendship and honor, yet beneath the courteous words, a calculated hunger had thrived. The narrator described the quietness of Corvinus's plan, the careful observations, the hidden manipulations, the way he read faces as one might read an open book. He watched how each person carried secrets, how each desire could be twisted, and how the faintest spark of fear or doubt could ignite the inferno of betrayal. The room seemed colder now. Shadows lengthened as if leaning in to witness the moral decay of those who sought to climb. The narrator's voice dropped to a near whisper. Betrayal is the truest mirror of human nature, revealing who we are when no eyes watch, when conscience is a fragile thread, and the heart hungers for gain. Corvinus's first act was small, almost imperceptible. A withheld word, a misdirected glance, a subtle nudge toward ruin. But each action planted seeds of doubt, tilled the soil of insecurity, and cultivated the harvest of treachery. Dialogue erupted briefly in the narrative, a confrontation cloaked in darkness. "Did you not call me friend?" a trembling voice demanded. Corvinus replied, calm and almost tender, "Friendship is only as strong as it serves purpose. Do you not feel the same?" The lesson cut deeper than any dagger. The human mind can rationalize any betrayal if it perceives gain. Through cinematic imagery, the narrator painted the world of betrayal. Empty corridors, echoing footsteps, papers scattered in haste, letters burned under flickering candlelight. Each gesture, each glance, a psychological dagger aimed at the unsuspecting. And yet, there was a perverse artistry in it. An understanding that manipulation requires not brute force, but patience, perception, and timing. The final murmur of the chapter hung heavy in the air. To betray is not merely to act against another, it is to understand their weaknesses, to see the fear behind the eyes, to twist affection into compulsion. Every listener felt the chilling certainty. In the web of human ambition, betrayal is inevitable. As the shadows swallowed the corners of the room, the narrator leaned closer, voice dropping into a conspiratorial whisper. The true lesson had only just begun. Understanding betrayal is one thing, but harnessing fear, making it a tool to command obedience, requires a darker courage still. Outside, the night waited, and somewhere, a hidden threat stirred, unseen yet unavoidable, preparing to reveal the next truth. The echoes of betrayal still clung to the walls, a subtle vibration in the mind, when the narrator shifted the lesson to fear. "Fear," he murmured, "is more loyal than any friend, more obedient than any subject. It is silent, invisible, yet it shapes every thought, every hesitation, every action." The listener could almost feel it crawling along their spine, a subtle pressure that demanded attention. Corvinus had mastered it, the narrator explained, observing how even the strongest falter when uncertainty whispers in the shadows. A new figure emerged, cloaked in the dim light. A woman named Lysandra. Her eyes betrayed the weight of unseen terror, the trembling of someone who had glimpsed the truth of human nature too soon. She had learned, the narrator explained, that fear is not merely an emotion, but a tool, one that can be wielded delicately, invisibly, like a surgeon's scalpel. A flicker of hesitation, a poorly concealed glance, even a whisper of doubt could bend people to her will, and sometimes it was enough to destroy them entirely without lifting a hand. The room seemed smaller, the candlelight twisting shadows into grotesque shapes. Each sound, the creak of a door, the scuff of a shoe, the distant hum of the city outside, became amplified, a reminder that fear exists in every corner of perception. The narrator leaned closer, voice low and deliberate. Fear is a language the mind understands before it even knows it listens. It can be cultivated slowly, nurtured like a garden of darkness, until obedience becomes instinctive. A brief, tense dialogue punctuated the lesson. "Why do you tremble so?" the narrator asked, his voice almost a threat. Lysandra's answer, barely audible, revealed the paradox of fear. "Because I know what I do not yet see, and yet I feel it waiting." The truth hung between them. The most potent fear is anticipation, the terror of what might come. The mind, the narrator explained, creates enemies even where none exist, and in doing so, prepares itself for manipulation. Through vivid imagery, the scene deepened. Empty streets cloaked in fog, silhouettes watching from darkened windows, the faint echo of footsteps that may never arrive. The listener felt the tension tighten, the way fear binds and isolates, how it exposes every flaw, every hesitation. Even the most rational mind can be broken, guided, and reshaped by the quiet, unrelenting power of dread. As the candle flickered, the narrator concluded, letting the silence linger like a blade poised above the listener's chest. Fear is not evil. It is understanding, calculation, and influence. But to wield it, one must first embrace it within oneself, knowing that the same shadows that control others may consume the wielder. And so, as Lysandra's trembling figure faded into the darkness, the path was set for the next revelation: desire, obsession, and forbidden longing, the delicate force that can both enslave and elevate the mind. The whisper of fear faded, replaced by a new tension, a pull toward what should not be pursued, yet cannot be denied. Word count, 500. The tension left by fear did not dissipate. It morphed, twisting into something more insidious: desire. The narrator's voice cut through the lingering shadows, a whisper that promised both pleasure and peril. Obsession, he explained, is the unseen chain that binds the soul, a flame that both illuminates and burns. Where fear immobilizes, obsession compels, driving the mind toward actions it would otherwise never consider. It is seductive, intoxicating, and utterly unavoidable for those who crave influence over others and themselves. A new figure emerged, almost ethereal in the dim light: Althea, whose every glance carried the weight of unspoken longing and dangerous fascination. Her presence was a magnet for desire, yet beneath the charm was a mind trained to observe, to calculate, and to manipulate the affections of those around her. The narrator described how obsession transforms love, loyalty, and admiration into tools, converting emotion into strategy. To watch her, one might mistake her for mere beauty, but the real danger lay in her intellect, in the way she could make even the strongest mind tremble under the pull of fixation. The room seemed to close in, shadows curling like smoke around the flickering candle. Every detail, the tilt of her head, the brush of a hand, the faintest whisper, was amplified, creating a tension that was at once erotic and terrifying. Obsession, the narrator said, thrives in attention and secrecy alike. A stolen glance in a silent corridor, a lingering gaze across a crowded room, these small acts ensnare the mind, planting thoughts that grow into irresistible cravings. Dialogue punctuated the darkness. "You think you control me," Althea whispered, voice silk over steel. "But you are already mine, mind, heart, and will." The narrator paused, letting the words linger like a shadow in the listener's chest. The lesson was clear. Obsession does not ask for permission. It demands surrender. Even the most vigilant can be ensnared, bending to the subtle gravity of desire, unable to distinguish love from strategy. Through cinematic description, the scene deepened, streets cloaked in fog, candlelight reflecting in rain-slicked windows, the hush of empty hallways where footsteps echo endlessly. Each sound, each movement heightened the tension, illustrating how obsession grows quietly, imperceptibly, until it consumes the mind entirely. The mind becomes both puppet and prisoner, a willing accomplice to its own undoing. As the candle guttered, the narrator's whisper became a warning. Obsession is not merely a temptation, it is a weapon, and those who wield it or fall victim to it discover that love and desire are dangerous currencies in a world ruled by cunning. And yet, even in its peril, obsession teaches a cruel truth. Every human is vulnerable to what they cannot resist, and every desire hides a shadow of betrayal. From this understanding, the path led naturally into the next revelation: guilt, the quiet, unrelenting companion of those who pursue forbidden passions. The shadows held their breath, waiting to reveal the weight of conscience and the torment it delivers. The seductive pull of obsession faded, leaving behind a residue far heavier and colder, guilt. The narrator's voice sank into the shadows, low and deliberate, carrying the weight of an unspoken truth. Every act of desire, every betrayal, every manipulation carries a price. Guilt is the silent shadow that follows, not in punishment, but in revelation, forcing the mind to confront what it has done and what it has become. It is an invisible hand that tightens around the heart, reminding even the strongest that conscience is a persistent, inescapable companion. In the flickering candlelight, a new figure emerged. Dorian, a man whose calm demeanor masked the tumult of regret within. He had risen through cunning and charm, much like Corvinus before him, yet each victory left an imprint, a whisper of what was sacrificed, what was trampled, and whom he had deceived. The narrator traced the trajectory of Dorian's guilt, how it seeped into dreams, tainted joy, and turned the simplest pleasures into hollow imitations of satisfaction. Even power, he whispered, cannot shield the heart from the echoes of conscience. The room seemed to shrink, shadows pressing against the walls, curling around every corner as if listening to the confessions of unseen witnesses. Every sound became amplified, the rustle of robes, the faint ticking of a distant clock, the sighs of someone remembering too much. Guilt, the narrator explained, thrives in silence. It is not loud or confrontational. It seeps, permeates, and waits for moments of weakness, turning reflection into torment. Dialogue broke through the oppressive quiet. "Why does it haunt me still?" Dorian whispered, his voice trembling. The narrator replied, calm but merciless, "Because guilt is the mirror of truth. You cannot escape it. You can only choose how to wield it." The lesson cut deeper than any blade. Guilt does not punish, it instructs. It forces recognition, reflection, and in rare cases, ruthless clarity. Through vivid cinematic description, the scene unfolded. Empty streets drenched in rain, the flickering glow of lanterns reflecting on cobblestones, a distant figure standing frozen in contemplation, clutching letters that revealed secrets long buried. Shadows danced across walls, echoing the inner turmoil of those who confront their own misdeeds. The mind becomes a labyrinth, twisting upon itself, where every corner hides both fear and revelation. As the candle flickered for the last time, the narrator's voice softened, almost conspiratorial. Guilt is not weakness. It is a lens, revealing the fragility of human nature and the hidden levers of influence that lie within knowledge of conscience. But knowing this is only the beginning. Beyond guilt lies the mastery of perception, the art of controlling not only others, but the truth itself. And so, from the depths of remorse, the stage was set for the next revelation, manipulation, the subtle, invisible hand that shapes minds, bends wills, and dictates outcomes. Shadows shifted, as if in anticipation, beckoning the listener toward the next forbidden lesson. The heavy weight of guilt still clung to the mind like damp fog when the narrator shifted the lesson toward manipulation. He leaned closer, voice low and deliberate. Humans are masks, and every mask conceals a secret motive. What one sees on the surface is rarely truth. The real intentions lie hidden beneath smiles, gestures, and silences. Manipulation, he whispered, is the art of discerning the mask, understanding the hidden face beneath, and guiding both toward outcomes unseen. A figure stepped from the shadows, Valerius, whose charm was as smooth as silk and whose words dripped with subtle command. On the surface he appeared courteous, even loyal, but each motion, each phrase, was carefully measured to elicit response, to plant doubt, and to bend others to his will. The narrator illustrated how manipulation thrives in small increments, A glance here, a suggestion there, a hesitation noticed and exploited. One does not need violence. One needs perception, patience, and psychological insight. The candlelight flickered, casting angular shadows across the walls, stretching them into grotesque shapes, as if the darkness itself observed the unfolding lessons. Every interaction, the narrator explained, is a battlefield of intentions. One must watch closely, listen keenly, and anticipate reactions. The most dangerous people are those who appear ordinary, their manipulations invisible until it is too late. Valerius demonstrated this subtly, guiding a conversation until a confession emerged, unbidden, from his listener. Dialogue punctuated the lesson. "Why do you lead them so effortlessly?" a hesitant voice asked. Valerius smiled, calm and unyielding. "Because they do not know they follow. The mask is all they see. The truth is mine to direct." The room seemed to contract around these words. Every listener felt the unsettling certainty. Perception is the weapon, and reality is what the manipulator allows it to be. Through cinematic imagery, the scene deepened. Empty corridors where shadows moved independently of the people, flickering candle flames reflecting distorted faces on the walls, and the faint echo of footsteps that never matched the shapes they created. The mind became a theater where every actor wore multiple masks, and the audience was both participant and victim. The lesson was clear. To manipulate effectively is to understand human weakness, desires, and fear, and to guide them subtly toward outcomes they cannot resist. As the candle guttered, the narrator's whisper became a warning. Mastery of manipulation requires detachment, ruthlessness, and a precise understanding of the human heart. One must not love the mask nor the person behind it, only the outcome matters. And so, with the web of manipulation woven, the next truth awaited: the cost of power. For those who pull strings, influence minds, and bend wills, ambition is never without consequence. The shadows leaned closer, preparing to reveal the price of mastery, the danger that awaits all who seek control over others. The intricate web of manipulation unraveled slowly, revealing a new truth: power is never free. The narrator's voice dropped into a weighty whisper, echoing against the walls like a distant tolling bell. Every ascent, every strategic victory, carries a price unseen by those who only admire the throne from afar. Power demands sacrifices, friendship, morality, even fragments of the self, and the higher one climbs, the lonelier the apex becomes. A new figure entered the scene: Marcus, a leader whose calm exterior concealed the storm within. His victories had been many, his enemies few, yet his eyes betrayed sleepless nights and the heavy burden of choices made in shadows. The narrator detailed the cost of every triumph: opportunities forsaken, alliances betrayed, and the constant vigilance required to maintain dominance. The world rewards ruthlessness, he explained, but exacts payment in the currency of isolation, fear, and the quiet erosion of conscience. Candlelight flickered across Marcus's face, highlighting the tension etched in lines too deep to be natural. The narrator's words painted a landscape of power's hidden toll: abandoned friendships, whispered rumors, and the subtle fear that every confidant might harbor hidden agendas. To hold authority is to embrace the solitude that comes with knowing that any weakness can be exploited, any lapse can bring ruin. The cost is psychological, invisible yet palpable, shaping every decision, every word, every glance. Dialogue surfaced briefly, a quiet confrontation that pierced the room. "Was it worth it?" a hesitant voice asked. Marcus's reply, calm but haunting, resonated like a warning. "Worth is irrelevant. Power is a responsibility, and every responsibility demands its due." The lesson settled like a shadow across the listener's chest. Ambition is seductive, intoxicating, but it devours those who fail to respect its demands. Through cinematic description, the narrator conjured the scene: deserted streets under moonlight, shadows stretching long and twisted, the faint echo of unseen footsteps, and the silent gaze of empty windows. The visual metaphor was clear. Power leaves no space untouched, no conscience untested, and no heart unscarred. Every victory casts a shadow. Every command reverberates, and every influence has a cost. As the candle guttered, the narrator leaned forward, voice a whisper that seemed to crawl along the listener's spine. Power is intoxicating, yet the wisest recognize its hidden debts. And those who seek it blindly may find themselves trapped in a prison of their own making. Beyond ambition lies the final revelation, the ultimate truth about human nature that is both alluring and terrifying. Thus, the stage was set for the final chapter, where the lessons converge into one forbidden, haunting secret. Shadows pressed closer, preparing to reveal what all previous truths had led to, the essence of human nature itself, dangerous to know and impossible to forget. The weight of power, manipulation, guilt, obsession, and fear had settled into the listener's mind like layers of smoke in a sealed room. The narrator's voice, colder now, carried the final lesson. The one forbidden truth that had been whispered through every chapter, yet remained unspoken until this moment. Humanity, he revealed, is not merely flawed. It is dangerous, self-deceptive, and irresistibly drawn to its own ruin. Those who seek to master others must first confront this terrifying clarity. To understand the human heart is to hold a weapon sharper than any blade. From the shadows emerged the last figure, Seraphine, a woman whose calmness belied the storm she had weathered. She had witnessed the full spectrum of human frailty, the betrayals, the secret desires, the manipulations, the obsessions, the fears, and yet she survived. The narrator described how she had learned that the ultimate truth is not in action, but in perception. Every human carries hidden motives, veiled ambitions, and secret fears. To know these is to hold dominion, yet even the most enlightened are never free from the subtle chains of their own nature. The room seemed to dissolve into darkness, the candlelight replaced by the inner illumination of revelation. Seraphine's gaze swept across the empty walls, as if seeing through time, through intention, through all the hidden currents that govern thought and behavior. The narrator's words etched themselves into the listener's mind. Power, fear, obsession, guilt, manipulation, they are but tools. The ultimate truth is that every human is a labyrinth, a map without edges, and the only way to navigate it is to recognize the darkness within oneself first. Dialogue pierced the quiet for a final chilling lesson. "If we know all this, then are we condemned?" a trembling voice asked. Seraphine's reply was a whisper like the stroke of a dagger. "No, we are awakened. But beware. Knowledge is a double-edged blade. Those who wield it may conquer the world, but they risk losing their own soul to the shadows they command." The listener shivered, realizing that understanding human nature was both a gift and a burden, a revelation that offered clarity while threatening obsession. Through cinematic imagery, the world unfolded in full. Streets empty and glistening with rain, shadows stretching endlessly under the cold moonlight, unseen eyes watching from windows, silent corridors twisting into the unknown. Every corner of the mind mirrored this landscape, reflecting the perilous terrain of human intent, where one misstep could unravel the careful equilibrium of control and understanding. The narrator leaned closer, voice barely audible, and delivered the final line. "The most dangerous truth is simple. Humans are neither wholly good nor evil. They are infinitely unpredictable, capable of love and betrayal, cruelty and mercy, wisdom and folly. To know this is to grasp power itself, yet to wield it is to flirt with ruin. And now you know what they cannot forget. The candle guttered one last time, leaving only the lingering shadow of understanding, a forbidden light illuminating the mind. The listener was left with a trembling awareness. Knowledge of human nature is intoxicating, empowering, and irreversibly dangerous. The forbidden lecture concluded, but the truths it revealed would haunt every thought, every decision, every relationship. The final lesson lingered in the air, a shadow that would never fade, a secret the world was safer never knowing, but impossible to unlearn.